Question 1. Which of these statements is correct? B. James VI of Scotland was related to Queen Elizabeth I of England. Elizabeth I never married and so had no children of her own to inherit her throne. When she died in 1603, her heir was her cousin James VI of Scotland. Question 2. Charles I was unwilling to reach an agreement with Parliament. Following his defeat in the Civil War, what happened to him? B. He was executed. The king's army was defeated at the battles of Marston Moor and Naseby. By 1646, it was clear that Parliament had won the war. Charles was held prisoner by the Parliamentary army. He was still unwilling to reach any agreement with Parliament, and in 1649 he was executed. Question 3. In what way was Elizabeth I skilled at managing Parliament? A. She established a balance between Catholics and Protestants. Elizabeth did not ask about people's real beliefs. She succeeded in finding a balance between the views of Catholics and the more extreme Protestants. In this way, she avoided any serious religious conflict within England. Question 4. Is the statement below true or false? The Domesday Book no longer exists. It was destroyed at the end of the Norman Conquest. False. The people who lived there, who owned the land and what animals they owned were also listed. This was called Domesday Book. It still exists today and gives a picture of society in England just after the Norman Conquest. Question 5. Henry VIII had 6 wives. What was the name of his first wife? D. Catherine of Aragon. Catherine of Aragon. Catherine was a Spanish princess. She and Henry had a number of children, but only one, Mary, survived. When Catherine was too old to give him another child, Henry decided to divorce her, hoping that another wife would give him a son to be his heir. Question 6. Is the statement below true or false? At the beginning of the Middle Ages, England ruled Ireland. False. At the beginning of the Middle Ages, Ireland was an independent country. Question 7. Is the statement below true or false? King Henry I was on the throne at the time of Magna Carta. False. There were few formal limits to the king's power until 1215. In that year, King John was forced by his noblemen to agree to a number of demands. The result was a Charter of Rights called the Magna Carta, which means the Great Charter. The Magna Carta established the idea that even the king was subject to the law. Question 8. Which of these statements is correct? A. James I and Charles I believed in the divine right of kings and that they could rule without the approval of Parliament. James I and his son Charles I were less skilled politically. Both believed in the divine right of kings, the idea that the king was directly appointed by God to rule. They thought that the king should be able to act without having to seek approval from Parliament. Question 9. Which of these statements is correct? A. In 1789 there was a revolution in France and the new French government declared war on Britain. In 1789, there was a revolution in France and the new French government soon declared war on Britain. Question 10. In 1913, the British government promised home rule for Ireland. Which group within Ireland threatened to resist this move by force? D. The Protestants in the North. In 1913, the British government promised home rule for Ireland. The proposal was to have a self-governing Ireland with its own parliament but still part of the UK. A Home Rule Bill was introduced in Parliament. It was opposed by the Protestants in the north of Ireland, who threatened to resist Home Rule by force. Question 11. Which two of the following names may be given to the day before Lent starts? C. Pancake Day. D. Shrove Tuesday. The day before Lent starts is called Shrove Tuesday, or Pancake Day. Question 12. Which two religions celebrate Diwali? C. Hindus. D. Sikhs. Diwali normally falls in October or November and lasts for 5 days. It is often called the Festival of Lights. It is celebrated by Hindus and Sikhs. It celebrates the victory of good over evil and the gaining of knowledge. There are different stories about how the festival came about. There is a famous celebration of Diwali in Leicester. Question 13. Is the statement below true or false? Most people live in the countryside in the UK. False. Most people live in towns and cities, but much of Britain is still countryside. Many people continue to visit the countryside for holidays and for leisure activities such as walking, camping, and fishing. Question 14. During which part of the year are pantomime productions staged in theatres? A. Christmas. Many theatres produce a pantomime at Christmas time. Question 15. Who are two famous British film directors? B. Ridley Scott. C. Sir Alfred Hitchcock. British studios flourished in the 1930s. Eminent directors included Sir Alexander Korda and Sir Alfred Hitchcock, who later left for Hollywood and remained an important film director until his death in 1980. During the Second World War, British movies, for example, In Which We Serve, played an important part in boosting morale. Later, British directors including Sir David Lean and Ridley Scott found great success both in the UK and internationally. Question 16. For which two types of literature is William Shakespeare famous for? C. Plays. D. Sonnets. As well as plays, Shakespeare wrote many sonnets, poems which must be 14 lines long, and some longer poems. As Protestant ideas spread, a number of poets wrote poems inspired by their religious views. Question 17. At what age can you vote in a general election in the UK? B. 18. The present voting age of 18 was set in 1969 and, with a few exceptions, all UK-born and naturalised adult citizens have the right to vote. Question 18. What if a Member of Parliament, MP, dies or resigns? What is the election called held to replace them? A. By-election. If an MP dies or resigns, there will be a fresh election, called a by-election, in his or her constituency. Question 19. Which of these statements is correct? B. The public can attend debates in the House of Commons. The public can listen to debates in the Palace of Westminster from public galleries in both the House of Commons and the House of Lords. Question 20. Which of these statements is correct? B. The UK is a member of NATO. Question 21. Is the statement below true or false? You can serve on a jury up to the age of 80. False. Anyone who is on the electoral register and is aged 18 to 70 can be asked to do this. Question 22. Which of these statements is correct? B. All acts of Parliament are made in the monarch's name. All acts of Parliament are made in her name. Question 23. Which of these statements is correct? B. Proceedings in Parliament are broadcast on television. Proceedings in Parliament are broadcast on television and published in official reports called Hansard. Question 24. Causing trouble whilst drinking in public can result in which two of the following from the police? A. A fine. C. Arrest. Examples of criminal laws are drinking in public. Some places have alcohol-free zones where you cannot drink in public. The police can also confiscate alcohol or move young people on from public places. You can be fined or arrested.